Hi everyone. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Hi everyone, what's Colleen Hoover and welcome back to my channel. It's me Anarkya and I'm out here with another video today. A video that I am very much excited about because today we're gonna talk about this. My favorite author so far, Colleen Hoover, and all of her books. I'm gonna talk about all the books that I've read by her. For those of you all who don't know, Colleen Hoover is a best-selling American author and she has written like 25 or 26 books by now. These books I bought in paperback, others I've read online, and some I was fortunate enough to find them as audiobooks on YouTube. And specifically for those books which I can find as audiobooks, I'll link them down below in the description so that you all can listen to them, because most of the people like who can't read or who can't concentrate, audiobooks is a great way to get into reading because you literally just have to listen. The timestamps for all the books will be in the description so that you can skip to the part you want to watch or anything if like that. Otherwise, let's get along with all of them. Okay, so the first book is It Ends With Us, your famous Instagram, Pinterest, anywhere you open and you see this book in someone's hand, whether you're a reader or not, you must have heard or seen this book, this cover, this pretty cover somewhere on the internet, because this is the most popular Colleen Hoover book. So the story goes on like, there's this florist girl, Lily, alright, who has this amazing relationship with this neurologist called Ryle, and they have an amazing relationship. Life can't get any better, and Lily is living her life to the fullest. That's when a guy from her past comes in, her first love, and things start to get complicated in her present relationship. Plus she has her fair share of personal family traumas as well. So this is what the book is about. It is also available on YouTube as a audiobook. I'll link it down. And so for my personal rating, I would rate it a 4.5 out of 5. It's perfect, it's amazing, it's literally, the characters are beautifully mended, everything is amazing, but it's just not my favorite book. Like, book number 2 is Ugly Love, also one of her most famous novels out there, and this was the first Colleen Hoover book that I personally read, and it got me out of my reading slump of 2 years. So for the story thing, there's this girl named Tate and the guy named Miles. So she is a practicing nurse and he is a pilot. The trope of this book is like friends with benefits to lovers, and plus the guy is the girl's, brother's best friend, to sum it all up. So Tate is your smart, intelligent girl, and she really likes this guy, and the guy also seems to like her, but he's very mysterious. He has his fair share of, I don't know, secrets, and he doesn't like talking about his past. So basically that's what the book is all about. Personally, I love this book. I will give it a 5 on 5. Amazing story, amazing plot twist, amazing characters, everything just according to my taste. Okay, so the third book that we have here is November 9, another one of amazing Colleen Hoover books. Like, none of her book is not amazing, so I'll say this for every other book, so yeah, you have to bear with it. So now over here, Ben is a novelist. While he's not an actual novelist when the book starts, but he becomes one eventually. And Fallon is the daughter of an actor. But what happens is there's a very misfortunate event where she gets into an accident, and now there are scars and marks all over her body, right? And she can't actually pursue her acting career, which has strayed her relationship with her dad and everything. And that is when she meets Ben. Now, the irony of this moment is, as everything seems perfect with them, they two just seem to click, and they have this amazing chemistry and everything. The date is November 9, and that is the day when Fallon was actually leaving the city. She was going to someplace else to settle and start her life anew. So there was nothing much they could do about it. However, by the end of the night, they decided to make a pact, which was to meet at November 9 every year for the next 5 years to see where this goes. So I'll give this book a 4.5 out of 5. And I would personally recommend for you to first read Ugly Love and then go on to November 9. That's because when you read November 9, there's actually characters from Ugly Love in November 9. The next book is Reminders of Him. Look at how pretty this cover is. And this story is, basically about a young mother who has to fight to be in her own daughter's life. Because due to past events, there's a lot of stuff that has happened. Yeah. Can I mention this? Yeah. So basically, there's this woman named Kenna who has this daughter, right, whom she has never met her entire life. The daughter is 4 years old, but she hasn't met Kenna because Kenna has been in jail for the past 5 years, and that is that. And I would give it a full 5 on 5. I totally recommend everyone to read this because it's so gorgeous. I loved it. The next book is Verity, one of my favorite Colleen Hoover books. Like, I loved it. Okay, so most of Colleen Hoover books, they're categorized under romance. They do have some sort of suspense in them, but they're usually just romance. This book, however, is a psychological thriller with a hint of romance. Just my thing, and I loved it. I loved it. I cannot recommend it enough. In this story, we have this best-selling author named Verity Crawford, who basically goes through an accident, and now she's handicapped in a way where she cannot continue her future at all. Like, she cannot move, she cannot do anything. But she had a series of 9 books, out of which 6 she has already finished, but 3 are left, and now the series cannot be put at rest. So some other author has to be contacted in order to finish the series. Now over here, the author named Loen is contacted, and she is made to finish the series. Now Loen is invited over by Verity's husband Jeremy and their children to their house, because Verity has her office in there, and she basically has done a lot of research and stuff. Whatever her research paperwork, everything is lying there for Loen to study and complete the books. However, when Loen actually goes into her office and sees a lot of, secrets of Verity start spilling out. So that is what the story is all about. It's amazing. It's brilliant. Once you read this book, you can check out my video I already made a separate video on Verity about what I think about the ending and what according to me should have been. So I'll link it here wherever the I think comes, and you can watch it afterwards because major spoilers there. The next book I would love to talk about is Regretting You. Now this book is so underrated. It's a story, like, if you're into young adult or into adult, you'll love this book, because this is a story about a mother and her romance, plus her daughter and her romance, and both of them go side by side, like at the same time, is going on. And this is a dual point of view book, obviously. One is the mother's point of view, Clara, and I forgot the mother's name. Morgan and Clara, they are the main characters of the story. And Morgan is the mother of a 16-year-old daughter, Clara. However, now the only thing is, like, Morgan was 16 when she got pregnant with Clara, right? Basically, she does her absolute best to prevent her daughter from committing the same mistakes that she committed in her teenage. It's like they're very difficult. It's very difficult for them to coexist. Right. Basically, the only anchor between Clara and Morgan is the father and the husband, Chris. Right. However, due to some accident, he dies, and now it's like they have to coexist without him, while life is already falling apart, and a lot of stuff is going on in Morgan's life, which she obviously, for obvious reasons, can't tell Clara. And obviously, Clara being a teenager, a lot of things are going on in her life which she can't tell her mom. So it's like, this book is obviously about miscommunication, and truly beautiful story for me, I would say, personally. I would rate it a 4.5 again, not a 5, but a 4.5. But it is a must read. But make sure it's not your first Colleen Hoover book, because it's kind of a little too sad for your first Colleen Hoover book. The next book is Without Merit, and this again is a very much underrated Colleen Hoover book. And this is another book, if you're not a reader, if you have not read any Colleen Hoover books, make sure this is not your first Colleen Hoover book. I'm not saying this because it's bad, it's just different. These two books are different from other Colleen Hoover books. So basically, this story is about the Voss family and their main character, Merit. Merit is the name of a girl without merit, so you can guess what it is about. Basically, there are like 3 to 4 siblings over here who live in this house which has a lot of trauma. When I say a lot, I mean a lot of trauma within them. But basically, there's a lot of things that happen. When Sejun enters her life, she feels like everything's changed, everything's different. But in a way, Sejun is completely unavailable to her. You'll find out when you read it. So there's an obstacle between them, and she can't really do anything about the situation. But she likes the guy very much. But at the same time, her family life is just going worse day by day, day by day. It's like she's tearing apart from the rest of the family. However, the whole family is suffering, but she feels victimized the most. So she's at a point where she can't take it anymore, and she literally spells out all the truths. In her family, she felt like she was the secret keeper, because everyone had their fair share of secrets, and somehow Merit always knew the secrets, and she was keeping them from the rest of the family. So she felt like she was suffering a lot, and she came to a point where she expelled all those secrets, and she tried to get her way out. She tried to die basically. However, that fortunately didn't happen, and basically she had to live with what she had done, and now she had to face the consequences of whatever she had done. And the rest of the story is basically about that, her healing the trauma. I will rate this 5. I mean, to be honest, the story was amazing, but I think it could have been put in a much better way. I mean, it's kind of, the storyline's a little messed up. A little. Not too much, but a little. Like, it could have been in a much better shape and form for the readers to just go through it nicely. Like, I had to reread a lot of parts to get through it. So yeah, that was one thing about it, but I do not regret reading it at all. It is an amazing book, an amazing concept, and a must read. So the next book is Confess. Now this is about this artist named Owen Gentry, who owns this art gallery named Confess, wherein basically he takes a lot of confessions, anonymous confessions from people. They drop it in his art gallery, and he makes paintings about them with the title, with whatever confession it was, right? And this girl named Auburn just happens to stumble upon that place looking for a job, and he happens to have it at that place. So they just appear to be at the right place at the right time, and they just hit it off. But for some apparent reasons, Auburn can't be with Owen. In a way, when I read Confess, it was like a mixture of ugly love and reminders of him. The story was good, it was great, I loved it. But getting through the first half of the book was actually a little difficult, because it it actually took me a little bit of time. But the second half was amazing, because at that time you're just crippling up with anxiety about what's gonna happen and how does it end and what is it like. There's a major plot twist just at the last page of the book, which makes the whole reading worth it. As for Confess, I would like to rate it a 3.5 out of 5. Although I loved it, I personally loved it to a level I could have given it a 5, but I gave it a 3.5 considering all the aspects. The next book is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. Now, Heartbones is another one of her not much popular books, and the story is about a girl named Bea and a guy named Samson. Right? Samson. I always Samson. Yeah, Samson. So Bea is basically this poor girl in this book. Like, she's had a very a very troublesome childhood, and her father has been distant, and her mother dies, and now she has to go back to her father for some time until she can stand on her own feet. However, when she goes to that place, it turns out to be one of the best times of her life, because she meets this guy named Samson, and there's a lot of stuff going on over there. To be honest, for me, it was a nice, funny, heartwarming, heart-clenching story. Amazing in all sorts, like fulfilled. And I would rate it a 4 out of 5. And I think it is available as an audiobook too. Okay, so this book is my personal favorite Colleen Hoover book. It is this book called Layla, and it is so underrated and so unknown. Like, people don't even know that this book exists, but it's literally my favorite Colleen Hoover book. So if you talk about this book, it is a paranormal, parapsychological thriller with hint of romance. Like, it has romance, it is a thriller, it has paranormal activities going on in it. If you like any of these 3 things, you're going to love Layla, because you're in for a roller coaster ride. This guy named Leeds is a pianist, and he has this band, and while performing at a band at a wedding, he meets this girl named Layla. So basically, Layla is the bride's sister. So now they just happen to meet, have a hookup, and stay the night, and they just get into a relationship, and it's suddenly been 2 months since they are in one, and that's when a tragedy strikes and an accident happens, and now Layla is not good anymore. She has a lot of brain damage, and she has seemed to be like she has changed a lot, like a lot, mentally, physically, emotionally, as a person in general, because the injuries were very deep. She has severe brain damage and she can't seem to recover. So what happens is that Leeds takes her to the place where he first met her, that banquet hall where her sister got married. So basically, Leeds takes Lala there, but however, he doesn't know that he's in for a surprise as well. He starts seeing some, inhumane activities over there. At first, he ignores them because he does not believe in ghosts and stuff like that. But however, it gets to a level where he has to question his own judgment. It's a full package deal, 5 on 5. If I was, if I could, I would rate it a 10 out of 5. It is so damn good. It's perfect. Now, Too Late is a story where there is a three point of view scenario going on. Okay, we have three people giving their point of views in this book. We have the hero's point of view, we have the heroine's point of view, plus we also have the villain's point of view. And this is the only book of Colleen in which she has a negative character's point of view. So basically the story is about this girl named Sloan who is going through a very tough family life. So she had to basically move out. She has her little brother as well, and she needs like a lot of money to support and raise him nicely in order for him to evolve, because he can't actually speak or talk or understand most of the things. But however, she has to pay a lot for the government charges and everything. She has to move in with her rich boyfriend. Now the boyfriend is basically the villain of the story, Asa, because he's a drug dealer and all that bad stuff going on over here. Now Sloan needs to get out of this situation, but Asa is a kind of dangerous Don type person. If you try to mess with him, you'll end up dead. So that's when this guy named Carter shows up, who is basically Sloan's way out. It is again another forbidden romance with just your any actual Indian uh, action film you see. It's just like that, only it's 10 times better, and I would totally recommend reading this. However, it is quite dark and spooky at times, so yeah, if you are sensitive, you should think twice before reading it, because there's a difference between movies and books. In movie, you get a personal set of images that stick to your mind and everyone basically thinks the same about it. However, when you're reading a book, you're reading the same thing, but your mind goes in different directions, right? Because your mind is open to imagination and you can end up thinking things which the other person might not. I would rate this a full 5 on 5. It is another underrated book by Colleen Hoover. Okay, so we have 4 series by Colleen Hoover: Hopeless series, Maybe Someday series, Slammed series, and Never Never. Alright, so let's start with my personal favorite, Hopeless series. So now, Hopeless is basically a collection of 5 books. Alright, now I have one of these, Losing Hope. Amazing, my favorite book boyfriend. This guy is my favorite book boyfriend, period. He is so amazing. I can't. There are 5 books in this series. Alright, Hopeless, Losing Hope, Finding Cinderella, All Your Perfects, and Finding Perfect. Alright, now you can read Hopeless and All Your Perfects as standalone books as well, because their story doesn't have to do with any other. But if you're gonna have to read any of these other books, you have to read them in the proper sequence. Alright, so first let's start with Hopeless. Now, Hopeless and Losing Hope, these two are basically the same story. Hopeless is the girl's point of view, Sky's point of view, and Losing Hope is Dean Holder's point of view, the guy's point of view. And the story is basically about this girl called Sky, who has been adopted by a lady, and she has had an amazing childhood. However, her mother is certainly strict in certain forms of her life. She meets Dean Holder, this guy who seems a bunch of everything. Like, he's funny, he's interesting, at the same time he can be a little angry, and he seems to have a lot of issues and stuff like that, but it's because he's hiding something from Sky. But it has the most amazing plot twist, the most lovable creatures as characters, and the fact that it is in a form of series, so I get to read about them in the other books as well. I love that thing so much, so freaking much. And the fact that there are 2 separate books for both of the girls and boys point of view, chef's kiss. Amazing. Total 5 on 5 for both the books. That we have is Finding Cinderella. Now, as the name suggests, this is what the story is all about. You know, Cinderella's story. So, Finding Cinderella, that is what the book is all about. Now, basically, the people in this book is basically Dean Holder's best friend and Sky's best friend. You know, it will still tear you apart because Colleen Hoover has to do that all the freaking time. She can't let you go without crying over a book. But I loved it. I personally loved it. And the girl 6, you know, in that book, Cinderella, she has my heart. Now the next book is All Your Perfects, very famous Colleen Hoover book. You know, it can be read as a standalone as well, but yeah, I would prefer that you read it in a series specifically because it's my favorite. I hope that you'd enjoy it too. Now All Your Perfects is basically the story about a married couple named Gwyn and Graham. So it's like, you know, this is a dual point of view book, but it's not like two different people. It's two different times. One is in present and one is in past. Like many years into marriage, this married couple is falling apart to a level where they're just about to, you know, like give up on each other. And the reason for their marriage falling apart is because, you know, the wife, she has some infertility issues, and that is what seems to get their best interest, and they can't seem to have a baby no matter what they try. So this is what the book is all about, and you know, a lot of heart-wrenching stuff. One of the most beautiful Colleen Hoover books, to be honest, because you know, it shows them at the past level, like how they were just crazy and in love and doing all those childish things that couples do, and in the present they're just like this people who can't even stand each other at the same room. Now I would rate this book a 5 on 5, and it's a completely recommended book. Go for it. And now the next book in the series is Finding Perfect, the last book. And you know, however, the hopeless thing and this thing, they are not connected. Now I love the way Colleen, you know, she basically weaved them together in a way that the stories came to a conclusion. Now Finding Perfect is a combination of the characters of All Your Perfects and Finding Cinderella. You know, the couple from All Your Perfects and the couple from Finding Cinderella, they meet each other for some specific reasons, and this is what the book is all about. It's again a short and sweet novella, so yeah, you can read it in one go, and the way it concludes the story for both those, you know, couples, you read this book, it's like they finally get their happy ending and now you're at peace that oof, everything was fine. So yeah, it was amazing reading this series, and this is my favorite series by Colleen Hoover because it's just perfect. So the next book series is the Maybe Someday series, which is again a very popular series by Colleen Hoover, which has 3 books: Maybe Someday, Maybe Not, Maybe Now. And as you listen to these names, you might think like it's the same story going on, but it's not. Maybe Someday is basically the story, it's, you know, it's in the form of a love triangle. There's this guy named Ridge who is a guitarist, his girlfriend Maggie, who is the most sweetest person I've ever seen. She's literally the bestest girl ever. And there's this other girl who is Sydney, who, however, you know, as you might seem the other girl as someone who is a bitch or someone, you know, who's, but she's not. I typically hate, you know, love triangles, but I read this one and it was pretty nice. It was amazing, it was sweet. So you have to read it yourself to find out what happens and how does it go. The second book in the series is Maybe Not. Now Maybe Not is a novella, and this is the only Colleen Hoover book in which I didn't cry at all because there wasn't anything too bad about it. And now Maybe Not is basically, you know, Ridge's best friend's story. Maybe someday we see Ridge's best friend and, you know, his other apartment member falling in love together. So this is their story, and if we see according to the timeline, Maybe Not's story, you know, starts way before Maybe Someday, because, you know, when you read it you find Ridge and Sydney and Maggie as well, but it's kind of in the past. So yeah, that is Maybe Not. In Maybe Now, that's a continuation of Maybe Someday book. In this book, you know, we have triple point of view. We have Sydney, we have Ridge, we have Maggie, and we have how they go on about their lives after the situation. Now, if I tell you anything more than that about the book, so that will ruin the fun of Maybe Someday. So you have to read that to find out the whole thing going on. Overall, it was a beautiful series. I really enjoyed it, but it's just not my favorite because love triangles and all that stuff is not my thing personally. I mean, I loved this book and I would give it a 4 out of 5. This whole book series. Maybe Not was my favorite book, however, in this whole series because I loved it. I fucking loved it. Okay, let's go to the next book series. This is Colleen's first book series, and it involves her first test book ever, Slammed. Alright, now this series has 3 books in it: Slammed, Point of Retreat, and This Girl. Slammed was basically the story. Now, if I tell you the story, it's literally a girl, who has to move from one place to another because her dad died, and now, they can't financially keep themselves going. And, the girl's name is Lakin, and her mother, can't really afford that financial status that they had. Now, their father is dead, and now she has to move from Texas to someplace else. I don't remember where she moved to. Now, here she meets Will, who basically is her neighbor. So they seem to hit it off until, the next few days when Lakin goes to school and she finds out that basically Will is her teacher. He's almost the same age as, they're almost the same age. Will is just a few years older to her, but he is her teacher. Now, why is he her teacher? What happens after that? Because, the teacher-student romance thing and all. So this is what the story is all about. The concept was great. It was really amazing. But considering it was Colleen Hoover's first book, and, it was a little boring. I'm not gonna lie. It was a little boring. Like, the story, reading it was worth it at the end because, the ending was amazing and everything. But getting through the book was really, really difficult. And the second book, Point of Retreat. So if I have to rate this book, first of all, I would give it a 3 or a 2.5-ish. The story was like a full 5 on 5. However, it was really boring, and I really had to try hard to not fall asleep while reading this. So now the next book is Point of Retreat. Point of Retreat is basically the continuation of Slammed. However, this is from the guy's point of view, I guess. Yeah, it is from Will's point of view. This book basically showed that, how two people need to stay apart for some while just in order to realize how much they need to be together, if that makes any sense. So this is basically about that, and this is from the guy's point of view wholly. Now, the third book, the last book in the series, was This Girl, and to be honest, this was the best book in the series and the only book that I actually enjoyed reading. So basically what happened in this book was, that they finally ended up together. The couple ended up together, but now they were looking back at the old times, and Lakin wanted to know Will's point of view of the story. So basically, This Girl is Slammed, the book Slammed, but in Will's point of view. It was better than the other 2 books, and Will was a way better character than Lakin. Itna I can assure you that. So yeah, for Point of Retreat, I would rate Point of Retreat another 3 out of 5. And for This Girl, I would rate it a 3.5 out of 5. Okay, so now last but not the least is the Never Never series, and this is the only book series that I have not read by Colleen Hoover. Because when I read all the other books, and I thought to myself, like, basically this is the last story. After I finish this, I'm done with Colleen Hoover books. Like, obviously, until she releases her new books, like, I've completed all her books. So that kind of, I don't know, I got uncomfortable at that thought, and I left this book series because it was like a 3-book series, and I was kind of lazy to read it as well because I had read so many books at that point that I couldn't read anymore. I also wanted to keep it off because I didn't want to finish all of them so quick. Now basically Never Never is the story of these 2 children, not children, grown-ups, but it dates back to their childhood as well. So the story basically starts with Charlie and Silas being in their classroom, and they can't remember anything from their childhood. They used to be best friends or something like that, but they can't remember anything. And it's like, when they're going through their days, they have some flashbacks or stuff like that about their childhood and related stuff. So the whole story is about what happened and why can't they remember anything from their past and stuff like that. Okay, now my jaw is hurting from speaking so much and so constantly and for so long, and my phone is heating up from the recording. So that was it. These were all the Colleen Hoover books. Do let me know which is your favorite Colleen Hoover book in the comment section below. You can find all the audiobooks or stuff like that in the description. And if you want to read any of these books, just remember you can read it on Google for free. Like there are websites which offer you free free ebooks, so you can always read them. And yes, if you want to suggest me some other books by other authors, you can also list them down below. I'll read them. And if you want me to make a video on any book, separately, spoiler, non-spoiler, anything like that, you just need to leave a comment below and I'll make it. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends or anyone whom you know is a Colleen Hoover fan. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day ahead.